Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We're going to be installing HIVEOS into an SSD using this SSD to USB-A adapter. We're going to be downloading the HIVEOS image and installing it using the 𝐻𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒 software into that SSD. We're also going to be using our rig.config file, which is generated from one of our workers. That file is going to allow us to connect that SSD to our HIVEOS account. Let's get started. So after you've plugged in your SSD to your computer using that SATA to USB-A adapter, we're going to download the HIVEOS image. I'm going to link this in the description below, as well as the 𝐻𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒 software. So once we go into the HIVEOS website, I'm going to be downloading the beta image. You're probably going to download the GPU stable version image. You could download either or. The reason I'm using the beta image is because I've had issues with my AMD card that does not get recognized on the stable version, only on the beta image for some reason. I'm going to link a video on top of this one showing how I fixed that issue. But for now, let's just download the beta image. You're going to click zip to download it. It should take a few minutes. I'm also going to download the 𝐻𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒, and once it's done downloading, we're going to go through the installation process and show you guys how you can start installing HIVEOS into the SSD. So after both downloads are finished, you're going to set up the 𝐻𝐈𝐍𝐿𝐒 software. I already have it installed, but I'm just going to reinstall it so you guys can see the process. It shouldn't take too long, just a few minutes. Also, make sure that the SSD you're going to be using is either blank or whatever you have on there, it's something that you don't need, because this obviously is going to overwrite that SSD. So just keep that in mind. The one I'm using used to have an old installation of Windows. I don't need it, so I'm just going to format it with 𝐻𝐈𝐿𝐒 and have it install HIVEOS on there. Okay, so once that's done installing, it's going to open it like this. You can close out of this now. You're going to click flash from file. Here's where you're going to select that image. Mine is the beta image. You might have the beta image or the regular public release, depending on what you want to install. Once you've selected it, you can select the USB. This is the USB I'm going to use. It's 120 gig SSD. Just make sure it's an SSD that you don't need, and you're going to overwrite everything on there with HIVEOS. So you're going to select that one here, and then you're going to click flash. It's probably going to give you a warning because you're flashing a SSD that has Windows installed or a different OS on there. In this case, it did not give me the warning. It has given me the warning in the past. Right now, we'll be back in a few minutes once it's done installing. Just let this process go through, and once we're there, I'm going to show you guys what you need to do next. So after 𝐻𝐈𝐿𝐒 finishes installing the HIVEOS image into that SSD, you're going to download the rig.config file. When you create a new worker, it automatically generates that file for you and gives you the option to download it. For us, we're going to go into our existing worker and replace the operating system that I'm using there with this new one. I am currently using a USB flash drive with HIVEOS installed on there. It is very unstable. I've had issues where that flash drive gets wiped out, where the miner just keeps rebooting. For example, it booted 46 minutes ago. You can see here how it's just been, these are the reboots that it's had when it goes offline and online. So I've had these issues for a while now, and I'm going to be replacing that USB with this SSD that we just finished creating. In order to get that rig.config file from an existing worker, you're going to click on settings, and then it's going to open up your settings file, which this is it for me. And you're going to click rig.config. Once you've downloaded that, you're going to drag that into where the SSD is located. You might need to unplug and plug it back in after you've installed it with 𝐻𝐈𝐿𝐒. A few windows should pop up. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, it popped up here. If you go into this PC, you can see Hive. It renamed it to Hive, so you know which one that is. And this is an example of what the file looks like. We're going to delete that example because now we have ours, and we're just going to drag this along to it. So downloads, we're just going to drag that into the root file, the root folder for that SSD. And that's it. Now, once we plug in this SSD onto our miner, it's going to take a few minutes to update a few files. It's going to update the miner that you're using. It's going to download the latest version. In our case, we're using MB miner, and it's going to connect everything and it's going to configure everything based on whatever overclock settings you have. So once you plug it in, wait like 10 to 15 minutes, come back to HIVEOS, and you should see that worker back online. We're going to do that now. So we're going to be removing this USB stick, which is where I have HIVEOS installed right now. And the first thing we're going to do is turn off the mining rig. And once it's off, I'm going to shut down both power supplies just to make sure there's no power running through the motherboard. And then let's remove the USB stick and install the SSD we just flashed HIVEOS with. So we've plugged in our SSD to the power supply and the motherboard. Now we're going to boot this rig, then go back to our computer and see HIVEOS. Once you've plugged in your SSD onto your mining rig, you can see that your rig is connected to your HIVEOS account when you refresh that worker. Or if you added a new worker, it's also going to say the same thing. Right now mine was booted 4 minutes ago and it's up for 2 minutes. Let's connect to it remotely. And let's look at the miner. Yeah, it's mining at 434 mega hash. This should fix my issue where it just kept rebooting after a few hours, as you can see right here. Hopefully this issue stops happening moving forward, because now I am using SSD. It's a lot more stable, and I have 120 gigs, I believe, on that hard drive. So that's a lot better than the 16 gig USB stick. If you guys have an option to use an SSD, I would always recommend an SSD. It's a lot better. So that's pretty much it. The hardest thing is just waiting for that adapter to come in. It takes a few days for it to come from Amazon. At least for me, it took 2 days. And once I have that adapter, I can use that on any SSD moving forward. And I'm going to be replacing a bunch of the USB sticks that I'm using on other mining rigs. And I'm going to be making a video about that as well. So if you guys have any more questions, just make sure you comment below, send me a DM. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share our videos. We will gladly appreciate that. We will see you guys in the next one.